Welcome back. If you joined us from our posting yesterday, the video, we want to continue on in our talk and our concept about spending less this Christmas season. It's part of the Advent conspiracy. And the first challenge that we want to give you as a part of this Advent conspiracy is to resist the pressure of the culture. If we're going to recognize that our culture is on the expressway of consumerism, materialism, and greed, and it's never more obvious than in the Christmas season, if we want to start recognizing that and take seriously the warnings that the Bible has to say about Christ followers being consumed with greed, then we need to resist that pressure from the culture. We want to engage our inner rebel. That's what the conspiracy is all about. It's conspiring to undermine this cultural shift. Paul said it this way in Romans 12:1. Do not be conformed any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The concept that I want to bring up today as part of this resisting the pressure of the culture, it's key that was something that we read yesterday that Jesus said. He said in Matthew 6:24 that you cannot serve both God and money or God and material things. Back when the children of Israel were struggling with worshiping idols, and many times God's men would exhort them, and God would give these messages to His prophets warning them about their idolatry and their idol worship. Well, one of the misconceptions that we sometimes have is that they abandoned God in order to worship these idols, and that really wasn't the case oftentimes. A lot of times what they would do, the ancient Israelites, they would see their neighbors and their friends, and they would notice how they worship their idols and their gods to fertility or their gods for their agriculture, and they wanted that and God at the same time. They wanted to worship Yahweh, and they wanted these other gods, and they tried to do some sort of synchronization of God and idols. And God's like, that's not going to work. It's just me. It's no other competition. And that's really the essence of what Jesus was saying when He was warning us about the dangers of wealth and materialism and the greed that often accompanies it. Because you cannot serve this stuff that consumes our lives and our budgets and our times and our thoughts and be consumed with Christ at the same time. It's idolatry. 1 Timothy 6:10, we read this from Paul. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. So Paul states it this way. It's not that having money is evil, using money is evil, just like giving and exchanging and receiving gifts is not evil. It's this love, it's this consumption, it's this overwhelming excess and desire for stuff and money and things. And that love, it has an impact on God's people. Notice exactly what Paul says. He gives two examples of what happens when people are consumed with things and materialism. He says the first thing is that they wander from the faith. That's just a paraphrase of what Jesus said. You're either going to serve God or you're going to serve money. You're not going to serve both. And when we become so consumed, especially at a season of the year where we're supposed to be worshiping Christ, and we become consumed with stuff and things and just getting more and more, that we wander away from the faith. It's not about Christ. It's about what new upgrade am I going to get? How much more nice things can I accumulate in my already overflowing house? It's not about Christ. And we have seen in our culture, in our country, and even in our churches, people wandering away from the faith because of their love for money. And then he gives a sad warning there. He says they've pierced themselves through with many griefs. I think of an old statement from rapper Notorious B.I.G. More money, more problems. And that's really just what it brings about. I mean, people go into January and they have these credit card bills coming in, and they have all this stuff that no one even uses or plays with, and they spent so much on their kids, and there's just all of this overwhelming excess that really is just a reflection of our heart, a heart that's given into the pressure of the culture. So here's my challenge for you today. Resist the pressure of the culture. You're going to have some awareness. That's what we talked about yesterday. Awareness of what God has to say about how to properly relate to wealth and things and material things. And the culture, with all the ads and all the pressure and everyone's doing it and people are spending money by the thousands, that I'm going to have to make a decision It's going to look different for everyone, but there has to be a personal decision that says, I need to resist that as a Christ follower. I need to be focused on my love for God and let that be an expression of my Christmas season. Come back tomorrow and we'll see part 3.